Good evening, Chief Zorro. How are things on the far side?
Uh, Good evening. Things are going well, thank you.
We are streaming. What time is it? I think we have everybody. So Ken, whenever you wanted me to.
Okay, go ahead and call this meeting to order. You take the roll call, I appreciate it.
All right, Ken Whitko,
Here.
James Harrison. Okay, Mark Pila,
Here.
Hart,
Here.
Ray Dotson.
Here.
Sorry, Mark Cherry
Here.
and Todd Wolf. I can hear you, but I can see you. We have Councilmember Mike Brandstetter. Okay. And then Chief of Police Mike Zorro. We have Assistant Fire Chief Scott Adams. And then I did send the email to the Youth Council, but I do not see them here. So they didn't tell me they weren't coming. Maybe they'll get here eventually. Well, I'll check in on them if they don't come in tonight.
Thank you, Joanna. I'd like to, first of all, welcome everybody tonight. Thanks for joining us and being here and taking time out of your busy schedules. If just to help out Joanna, if you do make a motion or approve a motion or second a motion, would you please say your name along with that motion so she's able to catch that a little easier? That would be very helpful. I'm assuming everybody's had a chance to look over the minutes. If you have done that, can we have a motion to approve the minutes as read?
Alan,
Mark Terry motions.
I second the motion.
Yeah, Mark Terry made the motion. Alan Hart a second. Is there any discussion about that? Did I hear someone say anything? Okay. Okay, good. So all in favor of approval of minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. We're moving on to public comments. We have one public comment that came in via email. And for the record, I will read that public comment. This was sent to Chief Zorro. Chief, 2 days ago, I called the front desk to find out who my CSO and NPO are. It rang a long time, but no answer. I called the PIO, Lieutenant Lawler, and left a message. The next day I emailed him. I have not heard back. I am not trying to bother you with minute minutia like this, but I'm running out of options to help the city. Please provide me with the contact information for the CSO and NPO for Lakewood District 2 Springbrook. It's from Charles Ames. Are there any other public comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next on the agenda. So, Councilmember Brandstetter, thank you for being here. There you are. We're talking quickly, or ask you if you can kind of just talk quickly about the fireworks ordinance, where we are with all that, and appreciate it. And anything else, by the way.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. And that during this year, the prospect of what to do with the fireworks portion of the Lakewood Municipal Code got a lot of attention from the City Council following all of this committee's efforts the previous year. And the council did take note of your recommendation to not make any changes to the code, but to be more aggressive and with respect to an education program around it. However, the council began the year looking to say that we wanted to try to find a more robust library record of public input. And just about the time that we made that decision and scheduled a public hearing, we ended up with the meeting restrictions for COVID that made public hearings and such being virtual, and that it's continued to do that. And ultimately, the council extended and rescheduled and extended and rescheduled, and essentially had 5 periods of public comment, and both virtually and through emails to do that, with over 150 separate people sending in what they thought what the city should do about fireworks. In the end, the council, after distilling all of that, went through and did pass an ordinance that made some amendments to the municipal code. That was done recognizing that majority of the comments recommended or were looking for some change to the code, although there was not unanimity about what change should be made. There was support for completely banning fireworks and not having a period of time. There were support for a shorter or lesser period of time than existed in the code, and there was a smaller percentage of folks that looked to say you leave it alone. I guess that I will tell you that in looking at that code, there was a theme about enforcement that was present in comments, and there was a theme about an understanding about what constituted legal fireworks already and what was already illegal. And that theme was generally misunderstood. Excuse me a second. So in the end, I've got a document, if Joanna could share, that would highlight just what changes were made in the code by the council. Sure. So the first change was in the definitions section, of where there was some rewording about the definition of consumer fireworks, which is a new term, and it was adopted because the state law changed the previous term that involved those fireworks that were legal to be sold and discharged by the public, to redefine those as consumer fireworks when they did some revisions of the RCW. And the same with the term dangerous fireworks, which went through in that same way. It really is not, those changes in definition are more in the titles of the terms rather than causing there to be any significant difference in how our code was. Further down under general provisions, and if we could move that down, Joanna. The general provisions section included the section where it talked about when fireworks were legal to be set off by members of the public. And this is, it changed it from a 3-day period in July to just a 12-hour period on the 4th of July. it retained the 2-hour period at the end of the year for fireworks at the New Year's. That it's important to note that this particular provision will be effective in 2022. In 2021, we will continue to have the previous 3-day period because of state law requirements that require there to be at least 12 months time between making a change in something like this and it allowing it to become effective. So that then if we could move on to, there is another section of, and there's a section about exceptions. If we just go back up to exceptions. And the council did not discuss making some statement about exceptions, but then ultimately did not and just left the exceptions provisions to be exactly like it is in state law without any clarifying language to try to help educate what's legal and not illegal. Essentially, things that essentially are generally able to be used safely by children in terms of sparklers and caps are not covered by any of the restrictions around fireworks, and a lot of the explosive sort of things that go with funerals or commercial applications aren't subject to this. And lastly, the council made a change in the section regarding penalties, changing violations from being a misdemeanor with a $1,000 fine and a 90-day jail term to gross misdemeanor, a $5,000 fine, and a 364-day potential jail term. Now, the reason that was done was not that we were trying to take a look at folks members of the public that were setting off fireworks outside of the ordinance, but rather to align this with the state law. And these penalties are really intended to actually be primarily imposed for violations of the law and the code that relate to the sale of fireworks by vendors and others. Far more likely is a section D under violation would be for most instances of where there would be an enforcement action by the city or on a citizen who was setting off personal fireworks, either because the fireworks themselves were illegal or it was outside the time, would be paragraph D, where we're really looking at a $75 fine, something that would be handled through an infraction process rather than a criminal process for a gross misdemeanor. I guess that I will tell you that the council didn't, while it considered an outright ban on fireworks, decided not to go there. That the council also acknowledged the challenges with enforcement of this ordinance that the chief provided, and there was a general acknowledgement that the road to compliance is through an education program, as this committee had pointed out in its recommendation. and the chief's estimate that substantial compliance or change in the level of compliance would probably take as much as 5 years to be able to go through and do that. And also the council, in looking at the budget that we adopted for 2019, 2021 and 2022, put some money in there to investigate and work on the viability of there becoming a significant public fireworks display put on by the city for the community. The challenge there is not cost, but actually finding a venue that would be both safe and yet visible and accessible to a significant amount of the public. And so we have provided some funding, and for the city manager, asking him to, by the end of the biennium, come up with a plan so that such a display can be programmed for beginning in 2023. The council did discuss whether we should add any money to the police department budget for specifically funding an education program around fireworks. And ultimately decided, and I believe the chief at least concurred with the city manager, that such a program, while needed, could be mounted with existing resources that existed within the police department budget as it was being approved for 2021 and 2022. So, Mr. Chair, I'm open to any questions about what we did and where we stand.
Are there any questions for Councilmember Brandstetter? I have one quick question. Mike, do you know what the allocation is for the potential show fireworks display?
The allocation in 2021 and 2022 was for $15,000 to work on the viability and the planning for being able to schedule a show, with the idea that the actual show itself would be funded in the 23-24 biennial budget, and the first show would be in 2023.
Thank you. Did the council put any thought into competition? Because we talked about that also, that there are several other pretty significant shows that go on in the area, whether or not I presume that the reason for potentially doing a show is to help alleviate the need to have your own $15,000 show on the porch of your front house. So at your house. So if that was taken into consideration, whether or not that really is even an issue, being that there's enough competition, or I'm sorry, there's enough shows around that it doesn't seem to matter, if that makes sense.
Well, while that there wasn't any decision made, but the discussion did ask the city manager to explore cooperating with neighboring jurisdictions regarding a show, as well as doing our own physically located within Lakewood. Essentially, we didn't paint the parameters too tightly. other than that we wanted it to be accessible to a majority of the community and it to be done in a location where safety could be assured. And we sort of left it to the city manager to do the research and the exploration as to what is possible. And we're expecting that when he comes back to us with a 2023-24 biennial budget, it will include plans for such a display and the funding for it. And I think he will come back probably in late 2021 or early 2022 with some options for the council to vet them with us before he moves forward with any finalization.
Thank you for that. Any other questions for Councilmember Brandstetter? Okay, moving on. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ray.
Miss my mic switch. Councilman Brandstetter, when you get the various forms of submissions, people that when we could show up in person, maybe through video, maybe in written or email, is there any weight given that, you know, is there a preponderance of importance if you get more than 2 or 3 emails or written things from someone or some group? Is there any balancing there between the contact?
I'll speak for myself that I gathered together all that were submitted, the emails, both that came into the city and some that came directly to me, as well as there weren't that many videos or that, but there were some voice comments that were done at some of the meetings to be able to go and do that. So for myself, I made sure that I sorted through so that just the fact that someone maybe sent 3 emails didn't give that more importance than someone that sent 1. On some of the emails, I replied and asked for some clarifying comments with regards to what they said, and often to try to clarify, were they talking about fireworks that were already illegal, or were they speaking generally about fireworks? And I personally evaluated whether they were folks that lived in an area where there was a homeowners association, and inquired of them whether they were speaking for themselves or whether they were speaking for a homeowners association, so that I could get a sense of, you know, was this an individual or a neighborhood that was communicating with me? The only one of my colleagues that spoke about how he looked at the preponderance of all the things that was there was Councilmember Simpson, who did a more analytical evaluation of them, trying to keep track of what percentage were looking for bans, which percentage cited did the different reasons, safety, pets, PTSD recipients being able to go and do that. But I think that each of us on the council went about that in our own way and shaped our thoughts to do that. I think that for me, the 2 things, this is me personally speaking, the 2 things were that there was a great deal of interest in wanting the council to do something that would lessen either in time or intensity of the community's exposure to fireworks. And two, the distinct impression that most people were concerned about the types of fireworks that were already illegal. I do think that with the fact that we're going to go through a 4th of July period with the old rules, we're going to get another spattering of public comment around that time. And then with the things that come back from the city manager's exploration of a community display, that will keep the conversation alive for a bit longer. And I think that as the chief, likely working with some input from you, looks at how to work on the education aspect about fireworks over the next 2 years, that this is not an issue that's going to stay in the rearview mirror.
Well, I appreciate your thoroughness, which is how you usually do things. I just thought I'd get a feel for it. Was there pathways of input that maybe got more visibility? But I think you've adequately described it. Thank you.
No one attached anything to a rocket and sent it through a window of the city hall.
Several problems with that.
Thank you, Councilmember Branstetter. Appreciate that. Moving on to fire department comment. Assistant Chief Adams, how's it going?
Good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll start off first with trying to update a little bit more on the Squad 21 that we talked about last time. A little bit more color for you. We're looking to do a 12-month evaluation. So that 12-month evaluation is up about the 3rd week of January. So we're getting very close to have 1-year data on the effectiveness, on the call volume that squad is able to pick up. Now, this Squad 21, if you're not familiar with it, it's an old Suburban. And what it's designed to do is to take some of the call volume away from our 2 busiest stations. And so our 2 busiest stations is 5000 Steilacoom Boulevard, Station 21, and Station 20 off Pacific Highway. And the design for that Squad 21, because it doesn't have a pump with it and it only has two firefighters on there, is the idea that it's going to respond to low acuity calls, falls, patient assist, beauty bark fires, things, or even like smoke alarm installations or problems, or people like service calls being locked out of their house, locked out of their car, something like that. So on average, it's been responding to anywhere from 4 to 10 calls during the day. And we only use it during our peak time, which is 8 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock at night. So it's not a 24-hour vehicle. It's just something that we use, that we've identified during our busiest times. And also during the day, over the last few years, we've found it more and more difficult to keep crews being able to get their hands-on training. And so all of that training is done mostly at Station 21 over there at 5000 Steilacoom Boulevard, because we have that concrete tower that we use. And by having that Squad 21 available, we're able to use that and deploy them and keep crews in service so that they can get that hands-on training that they need. Any questions about the squad? We can certainly do, once the 1-year evaluation period's over, we can have one of our operations chief put together a small presentation and do something if you want to put it on a work calendar for next year or something like that. But any questions?
This is Alan Hart. How are you going to evaluate it? What's the basis for the evaluation?
Well, one of our biggest things is trying to look at our response times. And so with our medic units and our fire engines, certainly response times are going to be a little bit shorter. Or excuse me, they're going to be a little bit longer because the squad's going to be able to maneuver much quicker during, a busy day or on an average call because they're so much smaller. We're also looking at how many miles specifically our ladder truck has been traveling. It's out of service a lot. It requires a lot of maintenance. And so by cutting down some of the call volume for that ladder truck, we're going to be able to save some life with the ladder truck is the hope, and be able to keep those crews in service for the more major serious calls, rescue calls, fire calls type thing, because that engine currently is used on aid calls, ALS calls, which isn't a bad thing, but using your ladder truck all the time to run aid calls, and then you have a fire call and that ladder truck is not able to free up for that fire, it just kind of takes that piece, or they're certainly delayed to that call. So we do have a gentleman that works with Firecom to pull that data, and we're really looking forward to being able to present that data and see how many calls all the different rigs are doing and how long those response times are. So thank you for the question.
I think that's a great idea to put that in our work plan. But Scott, when do you think that data will be available?
Probably about March. I talked to Ernst Heveson, who is probably the subject matter expert, and probably March we'll be able to have some presentations ready to deploy out to some of the different Rotary groups and safety advisory committees.
Maybe we should look at that on our plan for May or June, just to give a little buffer.
Certainly we will be discussing our plan here in just a minute, so we can certainly keep that in mind. Any questions, any more questions for Chief Adams?
Yeah, just one. How is the call volume being affected by the pandemic?
Currently, we're trending a little bit less than last year. It's kind of caught up in the last few months, but certainly I don't have the numbers in front of me, but kind of May through August, we saw just a really sharp drop off of almost 10% year over year. And I think that what we also found is that a lot of people were staying home and they were sick. And so we were going on patients that should have probably called 911 or reached out to a healthcare provider long before, just because what was kind of circulating out in the media about, don't call 911, don't go to the hospital, you're going to get sick, kind of thing. So that's changed a little bit. We are trending just slightly less than last year as far as call volume.
Thank you.
And then I had one other thing just to report on, not to be long-winded here. In our budget plan for 2021, this is something that's been in the works for a couple of years. We are going to hire a part-time bilingual outreach coordinator. And so this person that we're going to hire in January is someone that's going to help us with outreach in the community areas or demographics that has been hard to reach. And the biggest one that comes to need is the Spanish-speaking families. We've identified in the schools that the schools are having a tough time having enough interpreters. So this person can help us translate for kids. We also have a large group of mobile home parks and apartment buildings where they're Spanish speaking, and they didn't realize that this is a resource that they could use as the fire department come install free smoke alarms. We also have a very active CERT program that we'd like to get more people involved. So we're looking forward to having this individual integrate into our programs next year. And that's all I have.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions for Chief Adams? Thank you very much. Moving on to Police Department comments. Chief Zarro, please take it away, sir.
All right. Well, thank you all. Hope you all had a nice Thanksgiving. Just a couple things to provide updates on. Kind of an eclectic mix of updates. But first, as one thing that's kind of exciting and positive is we, for the first time in quite a while, we have 2 new hires on the department that started on Monday. Both entry-level officers. They start at the academy January 6th. And it's been a long wait for them because they actually received their first conditional offer in the spring, right before COVID hit. And then COVID hit and the whole world came to an end. So we had to put a hold on their hiring until just recently. So we were finally able to get them on board on Monday. And, both I think are going to be outstanding additions to the department. One of the individuals is Kirsten Mundell. And, it's fitting that she started the day after the 29th of November. You may recognize her last name, but her father, Kent Mundell, was a Pierce County deputy killed in 2009, a month after our 4 officers. So we have this tie with her already going in. So very special to be able to hire her, and I'm very proud to be able to hire her as well. Moving on, I mentioned the 29th, we had our annual food drive this year, food and blood drive. We weren't really expecting a whole lot, just you never knew what to expect or know what to expect this year. But we ended up taking in about $14,000 and about 8,000 pounds of food. That's just on the day of the event here at the station. So all things considered, a very successful food drive that went to benefit the Emergency Food Network.
How did that compare with last year?
Last year, it's less than last year. Last year, we had about $20,000 and about 20,000 pounds of food. But remember, last year was the 10th anniversary, so it garnered extra attention that this year didn't get. But even without the attention, we did pretty well this year. And speaking of the food drive, we have a couple other charity events that we hold every year. One is the Shop with an Officer, where we partner with Walmart and we're paired with families, or officers are paired up with families in need and go and do some Christmas shopping with them, all paid for by the Lakewood Officers Charity. Just given the COVID circumstances and restrictions that we're under, we're evaluating how we can do that this year. We don't know if we will be able to. If we do, it won't be in the same format that we have done in years past, maybe a delivery of some sort. The other event that we have is called Holiday Meals, informally referred to as Moody Meals around here because it was founded by Officer Ryan Moody. And what we do there is, again, we identify some families in need through the school district, and the Officers Charity buys a bunch of pre-made meals. It's well, I shouldn't say pre-made, the ingredients for holiday meals. They provide a frozen turkey, stuff for mashed potatoes and stuffing, and even vegetables, and a pie for dessert. Normally, the families come here and have a little pizza party and get their dinner before they go, and we deliver a few. But this year, because of the COVID restrictions, it's being held down at Tillicum Elementary in the gym, and there won't be a pizza party or anything else. It'll just be a drive up and get their meal and go. So I'm happy that we're able to still provide that or hold that event, even though it's a little different format. And I think we'll be able to do something with the Shop with an Officer, but we're just not sure what that's going to look like yet. And again, they're fantastic events. And I don't know if any of you have heard me talk about it before, but the Shop with an Officer in particular, I always remember my first year doing it and being paired with a little girl who one of the things she wanted was a pillow for her sister so they didn't have to share anymore. So you hear stories like that, and it's just you know that the event is worthwhile, and it really does mean something to those families. And then two more items to update on, more I guess business matters for us. First is the Pierce County Force Investigation Team. That's the countywide team that's being formed to investigate officer uses of deadly force. And as mandated by new state law, those investigations are conducted by independent teams made up of people other than or outside the involved agency's department. So here in Pierce County, about a year ago, all the agencies got together and decided that we're going to have a countywide team to meet that requirement. And I was, I guess, elected or asked to spearhead the effort. So the last year has been spent getting agreements together, getting the community representatives together that are needed for it, and then getting the applications from investigators from around the county. So the point we're at now is we have the interviews of the investigators. By law, the non-law enforcement representatives or the community representatives have to be involved in those interviews. Now we have 59 applications from investigators from agencies around the county, and that includes the Washington State Patrol. Obviously, those interviews can't all be done in one day, but our first day of interviews is going to be on Tuesday, the 8th. And it will be with a small representative group of the larger group of community representatives. And we'll take all day. And there's a set, block of questions that they'll be asking the investigators. So we'll see. We hope to get through 18 on that first day. And I'll probably have 2 or maybe even 3 more days of interviews after that before we get through that part of the process. So it has been a lot of work. I think we're making a lot of progress, and we're given what it was that we undertook. I think we're getting it done in about as quick of a timeline as you can hope for. The final little bit of update of business that we have here is we received notice of termination from the Nisqually Jail of our contract with them the Friday before Thanksgiving. So we're working on other options. Their letter said that they were moving to scale back some of the jail services that they provide and focus more on the State Department of Corrections and their own internal tribal needs. So I've been in some communications with the jail chief or the police chief down there to work on a smooth transition out. But what we will likely do is be booking our misdemeanors back into the Pierce County Jail like we did years ago and have done for years. So operationally, I think the only change will be for our patrol officers not having to go to Nisqually. They'll go to Pierce County for our misdemeanors. Now, one of the drawbacks for that, for us operationally anyways, will be that Nisqually would take some people that because of COVID restrictions, Pierce County wouldn't. So some of the people that were committing more the lower end nuisance crimes that Pierce County would not take because of COVID restrictions, and Nisqually would, those folks we're going to have to just release at the scene and write a report and maybe summons them later. So that will be a little bit tougher to deal with and work around sometimes, but it's nothing we can't work around or figure something out. So again, thanks. Just another gift from COVID, really, that we're going to have to deal with. But hopefully in the spring, things start to loosen up a little bit and things will, booking wise anyways, get back to normal.
What about the impact on your budget?
So Nisqually was significantly cheaper than pretty much any other option out there. We looked at SCORE in South King County and Thurston County and Kitsap County just to see what some of their rates were like. And they were all significantly more than Nisqually. But Pierce County was not as much as those others. They were more than Nisqually, but not as much. So we are going to see, it is going to be, the amount that we budgeted for the jail for 21 and 22 will likely be less than what we would need. However, we are also booking fewer people because of COVID. So without those bookings, it might at least for this coming year, for the next quarter or two, be a wash. But there will be a financial impact to that as well. And that I know was a very fast rundown and update on a few items we have going here, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of you have.
Questions for Chief Zorro? Okay, thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Okay, moving on to the next subject, unfinished business, and looking at our work plan. If you've got that available, actually, it was in your packet for any of you that need to look through it or look at it. So you put that up for us, Joanna, just in case. No? Yes, no, maybe so. Does anybody need it up? I mean, I have it up on my computer screen, but as you well are probably pretty well aware, folks, that this is definitely an interesting time to try and build a work plan around a bunch of unknowns. And so we'll do the best we can, but we can look at the work plan. If you've got your own copy, you should have the number one. Do you want me to wait, Joanna? Okay. Oh, you're good. Okay. Everybody see that? Okay. So our work plan so far right now, just looking at some of the unknowns that may be facing us, but obviously, at least for me anyway, our number one issue is recruitment, trying to get some other people from a more cross section of the city. Certainly some more younger representation, because I don't like being the youngest person here on the panel. Thanks for that laugh there, James. I appreciate it. Anyway, so I'm assuming I'm not the youngest. I'm just kidding. So anyway, recruitment, and then the road structure, the roundabouts, education and efforts and updates there, fireworks ordinance, and then rail station covering crossing, and then the city light plan. So that kind of is our work plan. I don't mind actually if you guys would like to add the update from the Squad 21 project. That sounds like a positive thing. Can we do that? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Good. So, any input or thoughts or comments on the work plan?
I just filled in months, like I just filled them in. So any rearranging you want me to do, just let me know.
Yeah. So, looking at just the months that we have every other month in the topics that we are going to discuss. Yeah, I didn't see anything particularly that needed to be rearranged because of that. I thought, so anybody else have any ideas or thoughts on our meetings, what we should have? Is there a priority? Is there a list that might fit better?
I think it looks fine the way it is.
Which month did you want me to throw the Squad 21?
I think probably he said March, but so that would mean June, right?
April.
Probably.
So you want June?
that I think probably would be safe. Don't you guys
Okay.
think? Oh, Scott's still here. So is June okay?
Yeah, I think June works good too. Yeah, either one.
All right, I'll put it in there. I also think we're gonna have to stay a little fluid with the special events dates down at the bottom.
Yeah, that's another
Right,
issue.
let me scroll that down.
Right.
Those dates, sorry.
Okay. Just curious as to, we really don't know at this point whether or not any of that stuff will happen. So, not sure even what we'll do. So at this point, we just sort of put question marks to it and kind of go from there. So, okay. So in terms of, I would like to just talk really quickly, you guys, about recruitment and whether or not, I know this is part of the work plan, but it's, what are we going to do? I am kind of at a loss as to at the way we're actually having to operate, that we're just, I don't feel like we're being very effective or even have a good plan together. So yeah, I would like to make sure that we're talking about that at least in the February meeting, if not, probably not tonight, but at least talk about that somehow. Okay, any input, comments, any other
Ken,
ideas? Yes.
did you send Joanna for distribution? Any ideas you have about how the group can be more effective?
I'm sorry, Alan, can you say that again?
Did you send to Joanna for distribution any ideas you have about how the group could be more effective?
Yeah, I think any ideas that this group has that we can be more effective, because I'm kind of at a loss myself personally. So we've talked about doing social media outreach and things like that. So I'm just not sure that that's effective. And so, and the best way that I know of in terms of how to reach people to recruit them is to actually meet them face to face and talk to them. Todd and I met and talked, way back. When was that? Seems like it wasn't too long ago. But anyway, and we of course going to the council, not the council meetings, the neighborhood meetings, is a good thing to do, because then you can talk to people. So I'm really open. I don't really know that I have an answer. So anything that if any of you have an idea of how we can do better at recruiting, or maybe if you say, you know what, I think we're doing fine and we don't need to recruit really, and it shouldn't be a focus or an issue, I get that too. So if that is, yes.
Sorry, I just have to throw out there that the city council is not recruiting right now. So I think your idea to kind of look at it again in February, kind of see where we are with COVID, see what the world is doing, and then see if putting a lot of effort into recruitment is viable at that point. Because I think right now you guys would just be spinning your wheels because you can't recruit anybody right now. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you for actually categorizing, or at least put that in perspective, that in spite of what we may want, that isn't something that's going to happen anyway. So thank you for that.
Also, too, I'd like to bring up is what is the gap we're trying to fill here in recruitment? Are we just trying to have more personnel on the board or the advisory committee here, or are we targeting specifically somebody or some kind of background to bring to the council?
Well, thanks for that question, Mark. I think for me personally, it's just to have a different representation, not different, but a broader representation of what our community is. And I think because sometimes for me, it's all about, it's all about perspective. I need perspective and want perspective that I don't have. And I can't get that with people that not necessarily with people, but for me, it's getting a different perspective of someone who's younger, or who lives in a different part of the city, or so on and so forth. So that to me is important, because those are people that will have questions that maybe we don't have and that we can't come up with, that would be a better, to have this committee serve better the city that way. So
And I agree. So maybe we should identify our demographics, what the current committee is, an overlay of the city, and then maybe identify those gaps. And then maybe that's what we give a little more focus on the recruitment, and not just a broad sweep, but actually focus for somebody out there to bring on board. I agree with you. And the demographics have to be a little wider and more dispersed, socially, economically, and all that, all those come into play. So I agree with that, but maybe we should identify our current demographics in the committee first, and then from there, focus specifically for those demographics that we want to meet.
And so that's a great point, Mark. I appreciate that. And I think that maybe it would be better to sort of look at the demographics of the city before we decide what our committee is, and then we can kind of look at that. So how do we accomplish looking at that? How do we figure out what the demographics of the city? Anybody other than maybe citylink.com or citydata.com?
Well, about 50% of the city is female, and it's been a long time since we've had a female representative on the board.
Yep, good point, Alan. That's exactly what I'm talking about, is that is it's a missing component. So
It's also been a long time since we've had any representation from Tillicum, Woodbrook, or Springbrook.
Yep. Okay, so I'm certainly, I think even just by, maybe it's anecdotal, Alan, but I think it's pretty obvious. And so even if somehow we can figure out how to reach those areas, or certainly some other female type people. So I'm open for suggestions. Joanna, is it okay if, just to not belabor this point, to have input from the members and just send an email to you that if they have ideas that can be collected, and then okay.
That works.
Okay.
Hey, Ken, when I was still active in a real estate broker, my the senior broker in the business brought us data. It seemed like it was volumes of data about every way you want to analyze the Pierce County and Lakewood. I may ask him what that source was, because it broke down things I didn't think you could actually define. That would give you a picture of what the city is. I'm not sure how you target it effectively. Certainly during this COVID thing, nobody's going to answer a door if you're door knocking. So, and I guess while we're thinking of things, the fire department's bringing in a bilingual, and maybe we should ask that question if we see a prospective candidate, to see if that makes it a more advantageous recommendation.
Yeah, thank you, Ray.
Yeah,
Okay.
we tried numerous times to get representatives from the Korean community or the Asian community in general, without success. Same as the police department has tried to recruit minorities without success. So we have to remember, it isn't always as easy as it seems.
Good point, Alan. It is.
And
Yes.
I'm going to throw in, sorry, really quick, because I'll forget. I apologize. Make sure that when you send me your ideas, you only send it to me, not to everybody. Just reiterating.
Do not reply all. Oh, yes, thank you.
Yes.
All right, any other comments or questions concerned about the work plan? Oh, okay. Okay, moving on. I think you'll just put the recruitment in February.
Correct. And while we're in unfinished, I wanted to let you know that I know Mark Terry had asked about PSAC gear. Ray shared what he had done before and that it had been approved by city manager. Chief Zarro spoke with city manager. He's still okay with you all doing that, what was already approved. So if you, any of you wanted to get yourself gear for meetings or whatever, I know that Ray said he still has the contact info for who he used. So you guys can go ahead and do that. Obviously with the same parameters that, you know, don't abuse it.
Okay. Thank you, Joanna.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Any other unfinished business? All right, new business, kind of clump that into unfinished business. But so we'll be looking at February's, we already kind of know what that is. Correct? Do we need a representative or some other person to be contacted? I'm trying to go quickly down here. We will have, let's see, what are we looking at? We will have Councilmember Brandstetter here and of course the rest of us. So I guess we don't need to try to find someone else. Okay, perfect. All right. So any other comments, concerns about the new business previewing next meeting or any other new business that we need to talk about or bring up? Okay, moving on to reports from board members and staff. Community outreach reports. I'm assuming there's going to be no reports.
North Lakewood Association met on the 24th by Zoom. Not much. They introduced the new representative for the 28th district. They talked about the streets redone in Oak Brook. That was it.
Okay, thanks, Mark. I forgot about that meeting there too. So that, and I think is the only neighborhood meeting committee that's actually meeting at the moment. Is that correct? Does anybody know? When I looked through the rest of that list, it looks like everybody's kind of on hiatus or hold or, you know, whatever. So, all right. Anything else? Thank you for that. Any pending policy ordinance changes? Anything we need to discuss? Sorry? Oh, okay. And all right. Well, anything for the good of the order then.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Merry Christmas.
Real quick,
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Thank you
real quick
for
one.
the support. Yes, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I'd like to say kudos to the Lakewood PD. And this kind of ties into the whole COVID thing and having to release individuals. So I had a prowler outside my house early Saturday morning. My security assistant picked up on him. We called 911. By the time I got out there, the individual was gone. He just crawling around my vehicle in my storage building. He left the area. I came back in, was able to give a good description to him. The PD showed up probably 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the most after the event. And they caught the individual just down the block, actually entering into another yard area. So great work on the Lakewood PD to respond in such a timely manner and pick up the individual who wasn't from the Lakewood area. So they removed him from the area, but they said they had to release him based on the COVID restrictions. So again, I just want to say kudos to Lakewood PD.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Anything else? If not, thank you guys. Thank you, everybody. Merry Christmas. Be safe.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
We'll see you in February.
We have a motion?
Oh, I'm
Move
sorry.
that we adjourn.
I'm not eager or anything.
Who was the second? Sorry.
Second.
Right? All right. And everybody that wants to adjourn, say aye.
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 See you later.
Merry
Happy
Christmas,
New Year.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
Bye.
You're right.